I'm wondering if because of my DNA, that's the reason why I love hot sauce so much. I mean, I put hot sauce or spicy peppers on anything I eat for dinner, I add it on there. And I've just kind of always been that way. And I know that this may be reaching, but I would say it's not a coincidence that it could have something to do with my DNA. You know, with my mom being half Mexican, of course I know Mexican's not an ethnicity, it's a nationality. But that's how we word it here in America, so many of us, and no one thinks it's weird to say that out loud. Okay, so I'm of Mexican descent, can we say that? And then also through my mom's DNA test, it revealed 15.2% Sephardic Jewish and also about 14% Middle Eastern, which points back to a history in our family tree of people who did not eat pork or shellfish because of their religious restriction that they had there. And so it's no surprise to me that having been kosher for nearly 10 years, now at least 9.5, I haven't eaten pork or shellfish because I realized that my body didn't digest those well and I had allergic reactions. I don't think that's a coincidence that a guy like me, having the DNA that I have, naturally I can't process pork or shellfish like someone who's mainly just European descent could. So I think similarly, because my mom has plenty of family tree branches going all the way back to Mexico and even before it was, settled in by, that when we think here in America, when we think of Mexican food, a lot of times we'll think of spicy food, won't we? And it's interesting because my Mexican grandma, it's not like ever once in my life did she ever say, hey, put some hot sauce on this. She never talked about spicy food. She didn't necessarily like spicy food. It was never something that came up. But naturally, I have always gravitated towards spicy stuff. And even I was at a Thai restaurant about a month ago with my wife. And at the Thai restaurant, they like to have this 5-star system. How spicy do you want it? Do you want it to be barely spicy or do you want it to be Thai spicy? So I went with number 4. And like my nose wasn't even running. My eyes weren't even watering. Like that's how accustomed I am to eating spicy food. It just, I've got quite a tolerance built up toward it, I suppose. But I do wonder, in the same way that I can't process pork or shellfish very well, knowing now especially that my mom has Sephardic Jewish and Middle Eastern roots, with pointing back to people who didn't eat pork or shellfish because of their religion. And then also because she's of Mexican descent and therefore also I naturally like spicy food. Now one could say, well Nick, everything you just said is a complete coincidence. Maybe you just like those things because you like them. And I'd be the first to say, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it is a complete coincidence. But I'd also be the first person to say, or maybe it's not. Maybe it could be that our DNA, what our ancestors were used to doing, somehow that preference sets up and even if it is physical, maybe it's like this, why is it that Jewish people and Middle Eastern people were not able to eat pork or shellfish? Why did their biblical text, their religious text say that they couldn't? You could say it was because it would show their obedience to God. Or it could be that specifically those ethnic cultures couldn't process pork and shellfish like a European could or an African person could. Maybe. I think there's definitely a connection between the foods we eat and our ethnic background. And sometimes that doesn't have to be taught to us. It just happens. And I feel that I am a perfect case for that. Some may say it's a coincidence, but I say it's not a coincidence that I don't eat pork or shellfish and haven't in nearly a decade, because I'm a vegan now by default. And then also that I like spicy food. I say my DNA found those things without me even knowing necessarily that those parts of my DNA had traces back to people who didn't eat pork or shellfish and people who like spicy food, because my Mexican grandma never talked about spicy food. So what are your thoughts on that? Can you relate at all? Or am I just a crazy American? Woo-hoo-hoo-ah.